good one. It's a good person.
So, Baruch Hashem, we are starting Parashat Mishpatim. Parashat Mishpatim is a challenge for anybody who wants to give a Parsha Hashvua on the Parsha. Why is it a challenge? Well, if you start
Hashvua זה יהיה לעילוי נשמת
השיר הזה לעילוי נשמת
גאולה
בת
חוסני.
וגם אלישבע. Why is it called a challenge? If you go through the whole Sefer Bereshit, you have a story. You have Adam, right? Adam, then he has his wife Chava, you had the snake, you had Cain, Hevel, you had Noah, you had Dor Hamabu, you had Abraham, you had Sodom, you had Yitzchak, you had Avimelech. You had a lot of different things going on. And always stories and interactions. Yaakov, his sons, Yosef, Shechem, Paro, Moshe, Aaron. And now we come to a Parsha that really has no story. There's no story in the Parsha.
Why?
There's no story. The name of the Parsha is Mishpatim. What does Mishpatim mean? Ordinances. Or basically known as laws. It's laws. It just tells you this is the law, that is the law, this is a law, and that's a law.
Isn't it also family? Mishpatim?
No, that's mishpacha. It will be family. Mishpat comes from the word like shofet or shafat.
The judge.
That's a judge. Hashiva shofetenu keverishona. Right? Return your judgment as in shofet.
Shofet is a judge.
That's where it comes from. Mishpatim. These are the laws. So it causes a challenge, but Baruch Hashem, we are all experts at learning Torah, so we'll be able to learn a lot of interesting stuff from the laws that the Torah gives us. First thing to look at is the first pasuk, Ve'ela hamishpatim. And these are the laws. These are the ordinances. Rabotai, back in school, right? Somebody is still in school. When I was in college, at least, they used to teach us how to write. And one of the major principles of writing is to never start a sentence with and. Right?
Yeah.
You cannot start a sentence with and. If you keep writing and, everybody knows you don't know what you're writing, you don't know what you're saying. Right? It's very bad English. Well, the same thing's in Hebrew.
I have answer for your question. I know. What do you want to know?
So, Rashi analyzes the pasuk and he says, why does it say ve'ela and these are the laws? It should simply say Eila hamishpatim. These are the laws. Why does it say and these are the laws? So listen what Rashi says. Go look at the first Rashi on the top. It says Ve'ela hamishpatim. Kol makom sheneimar Eila. Anywhere it says the word Eila without a vav, which means these. Pasal et harishonim. It separating from the first ones. Ve'ela, but if it says and these, mosif al rishonim. It comes to include the earlier ones. What are we talking about? What was last week's parasha? Parashat Yitro. What was the highlight of the parsha? The Ten Commandments. So what does it say? Maharishonim Sinai, just as the first ones in Yitro was from Sinai, came right on Sinai. Moshe Rabbeinu got a direct communication from God. Af elu Sinai. These laws that are brought down in Mishpatim are also from Har Sinai. Why is he telling us this?
There's oral law and there's...
Much of civil law, right? Government law, secular law, is based on logic, right? For example, you kill somebody, what do? You get punished. Some states, they give you capital punishment, meaning they'll kill you. Some states, they'll give you life imprisonment, right? So, you have a logical approach. Murder is a bad thing. Stealing, right? Governments protect people who get stolen from, right? Someone steals something from you. If someone steals something from you, the government the government gives you, will fight for you, right? You have the police investigations, lawyers. So, Harav Menachem Mendel Milobavitch, he learns as follows. There's a law that we have in Judaism. The law is that you're not allowed to take your lawsuit against another Jew to a secular court. You have to go to a Beit Din, which means a Jewish court. But not only that, if the secular court will have the same judgments as a Jewish court, right? Let's say you go to a Jewish court about your case, and you'll get $50 for it. And you know if you go to the Geisha court, they'll also give you $50 for your claims. Are you allowed to go to the Geisha court? It's the same law is going to come out in the end. You're not allowed to go. And he says, why you're not allowed to go? And Menachem Mendel Milobavitch explains this right from here. He says, why? Because the rational laws that we have in our Torah, in Mishpatim, someone steals, someone does, they're not rational at all. They are from God. So it makes a big difference. It's not just rational, it makes sense, therefore we're doing the laws. No, it's a godly law which makes sense to us. The same thing is with Pirkei Avot. You start Pirkei Avot, what's Pirkei Avot about? What's it called in English? Ethics of the fathers, right? Ethics of the fathers, how to behave nicely. What's the first Mishnah in Pirkei Avot tell us? No, that's not a Mishnah. That's a different Mishnah. First Mishnah of Pirkei Avot. Moshe Kibbutz Torah from Sinai. Moshe got the Torah from Sinai, Messiah Yeshua, and he gave it over to Yeshua. Yeshua came, Levim, Lanchik Nesek Dorla, right? You had a whole thing. The Torah got passed in. Why are we talking about the transmission of the Torah if we're talking about ethics and how to behave properly? No. To teach us our ethics are not man-made. Our ethics are also part of the Torah. Our rational laws, our ethics, everything is directly from the Torah. It's not man-made. That is the point in Ve'el HaMishpatim. These are the laws. These are the laws that were given at Sinai, even though they make sense. Humanly, we'll come up to the same conclusion. You kill somebody, you deserve death. But we don't kill somebody because it makes sense to us. It's a godly law. There's a story brought down that fits this explanation very nicely. It's brought down over here like this. A noble, a non-Jewish noble, once confronted Rav Avram Yeshua of a place called Apt. He came over to him and told him, listen, your court systems cannot compare to our court system, the guy is saying. And the rabbi says, why? He says, our court systems, we give you a date. This is when you have to come to court. Meanwhile, each person gets a lawyer, he prepares his case, they come prepared, and they come and they talk to the judge, and then the judge recesses and he comes back in 2 weeks, and then they make a decision, you can appeal, and we have a whole system that guarantees justice. Right? Like in America, you have a Supreme Court, and you can go up the ladder from a community court, you go up, and you can keep appealing, and you have lawyers, and you have judges, and you have juries. You guys, he says to the rabbi, what type of laws you have? You know what type of court system you have? Two people have a problem, they go to the rabbi. The rabbi thinks for 5 minutes and tells you this is the thing. What type of justice is that? There's no time to prepare your case, no time to do anything. That's what the guy tells the rabbi. He has a good claim. Listen what the rabbi answers back. The rabbi says, let me answer you with the mashal, with the parable. A wolf once chased a sheep. A wolf was running after a sheep. Just as he was ready to eat the sheep, a lion came and grabbed it away. The wolf screamed, you are a thief, you are a thief. The two animals were fighting, then they decided, let's go to the smartest of animals so we can get a ruling. So they said, let's go to the fox. So they went to the fox, and the fox was thinking, and the fox said, you know what? We'll split the animal in half. Half for you, half for you. It's fair. Everybody gets half. And who would split it properly? The fox said, I'll do it. You trust me? Yeah, everybody trusts him. So he splits the sheep in half, and he says, before you can take your halves, I have to check it. He checks one half, checks, he says, this half is too big. So he goes and he cuts off a little bit, and he says, okay, now I can't give it to you, I take it. Then he looks at both halves, no, now this one's too big, and he cuts this half. And he cuts and he cuts and he cuts and he cuts to make it equal. In the end, each one is left with a little piece of the sheep. This, the Abder Rav, he said, is what happens in your courts. Things drag on. Lawyers cost money. Court appeals cost money. Everything costs money until the end, you're left with nothing. Our courts, yes, we act quickly. And one rabbi can already answer, because we're trying to save the people money and not trying to steal their money. So it's a big difference between the Goyish courts and the Jewish courts. Now,
Let them watch Rabbi maybe in meantime. No?
yeah, we'll take a 2-minute break. So we said Ve'ela Mishpatim, the Vav connects it to the previous day, the same day actually. The previous words that were brought down in the Torah, which was the Aser HaDivrot, right? The 10 Commandments. Rav Moshe Feinstein says that the point of it is that a person should not think for a second that I'll believe the 10 Commandments and I'm a religious Jew and I don't have to follow the other laws, right? Mishpatim is mostly ben Adam lechavero, between a person and his friend. Not to steal, be good in business, help your friend, do these type of things. A person might say, listen, I'm doing the 10 Commandments. I believe in God. I don't have idols. I'm a religious man between me and God.
The first 5 is between God and...
Right. So he says, so Moshe Feinstein says that this whole Mishpatim, all these laws that were brought down in this week's parasha, was said on the same day. It's connected to Har Sinai, meaning if you want to be a religious Jew, you have to be a religious Jew between you and God, between you and a fellow person. If a person goes to business and cheats, he's not a religious Jew. You cannot cheat and consider yourself a religious Jew. It comes hand in hand. In fact, there's a story brought down by Rav Pam's students where he would walk into a store and they told him, listen, Yeshiva Shagai, we're going to give you tax-free, no taxes. So the Kollel member said, listen, I'm paying taxes. He says, what do you mean? We're giving you tax-free. He says, no. The law of the land is you have to pay taxes. So you have to pay. You can't ask for taxes off. It's just not the way it works.
Special discount.
If they give you a discount, that's their thing. But taxes off, you have to pay the government. You have a famous law, Dina de Malchut or Dino, right? If you have a law of the land, it becomes a law. That's it. Now, let's move on in the parasha and let's look at pasuk, Perek 21, pasuk 33. Now, the pasuk says like this: "V'chi yiftach ish bor, o ki yichre ish bor v'lo yichasenu, v'nafal shama shor o hamor." Here we have a brilliant fellow who decides to go and dig a pit in the public property. Or there was a pit that was covered, and he decided he wanted to see what's inside of it, and opened it and left it open. The Gemara in Baba Kama teaches us all the laws about this bar, about this pit. But there's a famous saying about a pit. People like to throw their enemies inside a pit. Right? That's where they throw them. Right? I'm going to make a pit for you. I'll make a bore for you. The Tehillim actually says... Tehillim, we have a Tehillim in here? No. Okay. The Tehillim actually says in Perek Zayin, Posuk, Ted Zayin, if I recorded it correctly, otherwise it's going to be really... Perek Zayin, Posuk Ted Zayin, Bor kara vayhapereu vayipol b'shachat yip'al. The loose translation of the pasuk is someone who digs a pit, digs a bore, he himself will fall into it. that brilliant fellow who dug the pit in the middle of the public way, he himself ends up falling in it. I mean, how many times? I don't know if anyone ever did this, but someone was baking something or making lasagna or making some sort of food, and something fell into it. It's not going to ruin the food, but something that shouldn't be in there. So he says, you know what? Just leave it in there. And what happens when he cuts it up? Who gets it? He himself. And his teeth. And he wants to curse out somebody. He can't curse out himself. That's the way the world works. You dig your own pit. You dig your own problems. There was a king, a mashal, that brought down from the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov brings down a mashal. He says his father. He says there was a king once. This king, he grew up rich, and he grew up, having everything. So when he got older and he was king, he decided he wanted to experience the peasant life. I want to go see how the commoners are doing. So he would go amongst the poor people, amongst the forest side and the countryside, and he would see them and talk to them. And there was one poor guy who was a very big philosopher. You ever meet those people? They're big philosophers. They like to tell you about their ideas and thoughts and the way things work. So this poor philosopher used to tell the king, he didn't know it was the king. The king used to dress up as a regular guy. He used to tell the king, listen, I believe that anything a person does, he does for himself. If you do good, you do it for yourself. If you do bad, you do bad for yourself. And the king is thinking about it and says, I don't believe this guy. I'm the king, I'm helping him out. Every time I come to him, I give him stuff, I do stuff, and he thinks I'm doing it for myself. Nobody even knows that I'm the king. So it's not I'm doing it for myself. And this poor guy would tell him every time the king visits, so the king got fed up. He says, you know what? I'm sick and tired of this poor guy telling me I do everything for myself. So he decided he's going to punish him. He got a chicken, nice juicy chicken, and they injected into the chicken a poison. And he delivered it to the poor man like he always did. And the poor man, what did poor man do? Lechem oni, what do we do? They take the big piece and they put it away for later. So they took the chicken and they went and he put it in the freezer or whatever he had, the ice box at that time. He went and put it inside his ice box. A little while later, the king's son, the prince, went out hunting. And when he finished hunting, he got very, very tired and he needed something to eat. So he saw the first home where he was hunting in the countryside. And he knocked on the door and he said, please, as the prince, I'm asking you to feed me something. So the poor man says, listen, I have just a thing. Your father, the king, sent me a chicken. I have the chicken in the ice box. I'm going to prepare it for you. He takes out the chicken, he prepares it. And the prince is sitting there waiting and he brings him the meal. And he's about to eat it. And then the guards say, ho, 1 second. Before the prince eats anything, we have to get it tested. Give us a dog. He brings in the dog, and he throws a piece of the chicken to the dog. The dog eats the chicken, dies. The guards say, seize that man. They grab him, and they say, you're coming to the palace for judgment. They bring him to the palace for judgment, and the king hears everything that happened, and the king says, he's free to go. Not only that, go to my treasure chest and bring out money, ruble, gold, and silver. Someone says, what happened? He says, this man was right. Whatever you do, you end up doing to yourself. The Baal Shem Tov says from here, what should a person do? A person should do good for others. Like this good would end up to you. You want stuff to change for your better, you have to be better to other people. And not only that, the fact is that your face is considered a public domain. Your face, everyone sees, right? Your chest is closed. You can't make a tattoo there, asur, but if you have a scratch, no one's going to get bothered from it. No one's going to get disgusted from it. But if a person walks around with a face that's sour and sad, it affects everybody. Your face is like a bor, Birshut Rabim. Yishol Salanter says this. In fact, Yishol Salanter says many hundreds of years ago, how long, 50 years, 60, 800, 200 years, I don't know how long he lived. 1800s, I think he lived in. And he said that your face, person sees you smile, they start to smile. They see you sad, and just I think 3 years ago, the Associated Press, with a couple of scientists, decided to make a research to see how the office place gets affected by a smile or a frown. And they saw that someone's smile changes the whole place, and someone's frown changes the whole place. So do good to everybody. You do good, you'll end up good. You do someone bad, the bad will end up to you. I mean, how many times we see this? Haman, all these other people, they try to do things and they end up
killing themselves.
Let's move on to another pasuk. We're going now to Per Chav Bet, pasuk Chav Aleph, Chav Bet. This is a very, very important. Chav Bet, Chav Aleph, Chav Bet. Right over here. Kol almana veyatom lo te'anun. Every widow, someone who lost her husband. Perek Chav Bet, pasuk Chav Aleph, Chav Bet. Kol almana veyatom lo te'anun. Anyone who lost their father, or anybody who lost their husband, you cannot afflict them. You cannot make pain for them. Im aneh te'aneh. If, let's read the Stone Edition's English. If you dare to cause him pain, ki imtza'o kitzak elai, if he should cry out to me, shamo eshma tza'akato, I'm going to hear their cry. Rabotai, pay attention to this pasuk. Every time it's double. It says, Im aneh ta'aneh. If you afflict, afflict. You know, it cause pain, cause pain. Im tza'ok kitz'ak. They'll cry, they'll cry. Shamo'a ishma. I'll listen, I'll listen. Why is it saying it twice? What's the...
If you're gonna scream, you're gonna scream too.
Why? Why is it happening? Rabotai, I'll tell you why. I think they bring this man from the Kotzker, I believe.
It's not only a widow.
Widow or orphan. Yeah, almana ve'yatom. Because even nowadays, even when you're adults, someone comes over to you, someone embarrasses you. So you get the embarrassment, right? You get the embarrassment. But then you come home and you can talk to somebody who you think can take care of it, right? You can talk to your father and he can try to stick up for you. A woman can talk to her husband and he'll try to defend her. But the almanah and yatom, they don't have that. So they have two pains. One, the regular embarrassment that we all have if someone embarrasses us or someone causes us pain. And the second one is they have no one to go to. So therefore, since they have no one to go to, God comes in their place. And God says they'll cry out twice. Once because they got embarrassed, and once they don't have no one else to cry to, so they cry out to me. I will listen to them twice. And I'll take care of that person personally. The Hafetz Haim, in his times, there was a widow that lived, and the house became foreclosed. Right? They lost the mortgage, they couldn't pay, and the bank is taking back the house. And the house was the Jew who was doing this to this widow. I don't know how those houses worked back then, but they were able to just pull off the roof. She wouldn't leave the premises, so they pulled off the roof. The Hafetz Haim said, this Jew who did this, I guarantee to you, he will not live out the year. And that's what happened. Within the year, he lost his life, this guy who did it to her. You cannot mess with an almanah. You cannot mess with these people. Their cries are right away gathered by Hashem, and He answers them quickly. And our great rabbis have gone out of their way to always protect and dignify, give these people respect. One of the greatest Sephardic rabbis that ever lived, Rav Chaim Palachi, he was the chief rabbi in Izmir, Turkey. When he became installed as chief rabbi, every Friday night after shul, he would walk home in the most messed up way. Instead of walking from the shul to his house, he would go like this and come back. Now the halacha is, he's supposed to go home as soon as you can to make kiddush. That's what the halacha. Therefore you're not supposed to talk too much to people after shul, you have to go straight home. And the students, the people, the community hired this rabbi and they say there's something wrong with this guy. Instead of going straight home, he's going around in circles. So they came to Rav Chaim Palachi and they asked him, what are you doing? Why are you not going straight home? He says to his congregation, he says, the widow of the former chief rabbi, she lives on the path that takes me directly home. If she sees me, the new rabbi, the new chief rabbi, walking as I walk to my house, it's going to pain her again that she lost her husband who used to be chief rabbi, and now there's a new chief rabbi. I don't want to be the source of pain to this woman. I will go out of my way and take extra time not to cause pain to this woman. This is how much our rabbis went out of their way to protect the almanot. Now, there was another story. This is an interesting story. Rav Hirsch Brody of Kelm, he had a young orphan, a yatom, someone who lost their parents, working in his house as a maid, and they would pay her. One day, this rabbi's wife came over to the rabbi and said, listen, I think this maid is stealing stuff. I know she's a yatom, I know she's an orphan, but do I have a right to take her to Beit Din so they can figure out what's happening here? Yeah. So her husband said, of course you have a right. Someone's stealing from you. You have a right to defend yourself. Go. You can go to Beit Din. So she makes the proper appointments, and the Beit Din says, come on this day. She gets up in the morning. She gets herself prepared. She's going to Beit Din. At the same time, she sees her husband also getting dressed up. She says, what, you're going to the Beit Din with me? He's like, no, I'm going to Beit Din, but I'm not going with you. She says, why are you going? Okay. He says, because the orphan has nobody to defend her. The maid, the orphan, I'm going to defend the orphan. So I'll see you in court, he tells his wife. So the wife says, listen, if that's what you're going to do, then I'm not going. So he dropped the case over there. But you see how much you have to stick up for these people. The Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, the chief rabbi of Brisk, the Av Beit Din, of one of the very learned city. The people there were Talmidei Chachamim who lived in Brisk. And he was the biggest of them all. But he would never let anybody announce him as chief rabbi Av Beit Din, the father of the main chief judge. Never let anybody announce him like that. He would always sign his papers, Chaim Soloveitchik. That's it, or Reb Chaim Soloveitchik. But he would never let them announce him as chief rabbi. Once, there was a widow in the city, an almanah, who became very depressed and very down. And people saw that she was starting to deteriorate in her health condition. So, Chaim Soloveitchik decided he had to go visit her. But how did he went to visit her? He went out of character. Usually he never let anybody announce him as chief rabbi. But this time he sent his students in front of him. He said, go to the woman's house and scream out loud, the chief rabbi, Av Beit Din, is coming to this house. Why? It's going to give her a little pride, right? Make her feel a little happier that someone important is coming to her. Rabbi Yecheskel Abramsky, when he lived in Yerushalayim, he was a very old man. He's already in his 90s. And he was sitting at his home Friday night after the meal, and he was learning in his study. He was learning Torah. And a widow came to visit his wife. An almanah came to visit his wife so they can talk. In the middle of his learning, he stopped. He went over there where the women were sitting, and he comes over to the widow, and he tells the widow, Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, it's so nice to see you. Can you please do me a big favor? She says, me? I do a favor for the chief rabbi? She says, yes. He says, yes, I need a big favor. He says, what's the favor? I bought a coat. My wife gave me a coat. I want to know if it really looks good on me. My wife is biased. She bought it. I want to know if you can give me your honest opinion of how it looks. Now, think for 2 seconds. He's a rabbi. He's 90 years old. He doesn't care what he's wearing. All right? He goes out. He puts it on. He's turning this way. He's turning that way. And the almanah says, I think it looks very, very nice. He says, oh, thank you so much. Now I feel much more comfortable walking with this outside. What did he do? What was the whole point of showing off his coat? He wanted to show the almanah that you mean something to me. Your advice, your thoughts, the way what you're thinking means a lot to me. So she should feel that she's still worth something, and then that she didn't lose everything. You know, we say all these stories, but when time comes, it's hard to sometimes put it in practice. I've dealt in chinuch for a long time, and a lot of times the orphans are some of the hardest students to deal with. Very wild. They're acting out, and they're only acting out because they need to act out. They need it because they don't get it from anywhere else. They have pain and other stuff like that, and it's sometimes hard to remember that. But you have to always look at the big situation and try to find ways to. You can't let them always act out as well, because then they're never going to learn how to behave. You have to find the balance, for the children that need the chinuch. And for the older people, you always have to watch out. You cannot think that they're really strong. They might put on a strong face. But an almanah, the Torah tells us, is always feeling pain that she doesn't have a husband anymore. Why? She'll go to a wedding. Everybody else is walking down the aisle with their spouse, and she doesn't have anyone to walk with. They give her son, or this person. It doesn't feel the same. And she'll smile, and she'll dance. And the children will put on strong faces. Is in Perik Chav Bet, Pasuk Chav Daled. Im kesef. Im usually means if. Rashi tells us this is one of the cases when it does not mean if. It means when. Im kesef, when you have money, talve'et ami. Right? You have to help the poor one. Ete ani imach, lo ti'eh lo kinoshe, lo tisimun alav. Neshech. The gist of the pasuk is, when you have money and someone needs to borrow it, you have to lend it. And how do you lend it? Without interest. Rabotai, what is interest? I mean, we've all dealt with student loans or banks, and you've seen them. It's when you borrow $100 and you tell the guy, when you pay me back, you give me back $110. This is categorically forbidden for Jews to do to each other. You're not allowed to charge interest. But it doesn't even mean $10. Here's $100, you have to pay me back $100 and 1 penny. He would shecht his own chickens and ducks. Sometimes he had a question if a chicken or a duck was kosher. So he used to get on his horse, travel to the rabbi's house, and ask him. One day, at this farm, a visitor came. And this visitor, somebody who learned a little bit of Torah, thought he knows a lot, and ended up messing up everything. What did he do? He saw this farmer check the duck, or a goose, whatever it is. He's looking, I'm not sure if it's kosher. He gets on his horse, and he's about to travel. So this wise guy gets up and says, where are you going? Why are you going to the rabbi in the freezing cold?
That's me.
I'll tell you what to do. I learned in Torah, it says, basar terefa, if it's not kosher, you send it to the dog. So not kosher meat the dog will take. Go put this meat in front of the dog. If the dog takes it, then it's not kosher. If the dog doesn't take it, then it is kosher.
It's like the fox.
So he says, wow, such a good idea. I don't have to go in the cold anymore. So he goes and he takes this goose and he brings it in front of the dog. Now the dog is looking as the whole farmer's family and this other guy is standing there watching. And the dog says there's got to be some sort of trick. He doesn't eat it. Everyone goes, whoa, it's kosher, it's kosher. And they take it home and they make a whole soup out of it. The next time it happens, again, this farmer says, oh, I know what to do. He goes and he puts it in front of the dog. The dog looks back and forth, doesn't care who's watching, grabs it. The next time again, for a long time, every time the dog gets the piece of meat, he's eating it. So this guy says, you know what, that's it. I'm going back to my rabbi. The next time it happens, he goes back to his rabbi. So the rabbi says, hey, I didn't see you in 2-3 years. You had no more safek, what if the kosher, not kosher? He says, I did. But I heard of the system that I gave it to the dog, and if he ate it, like yes. So the rabbi said, okay, so why suddenly you're coming now? He says, the dog is too machmer. He's too strong. Every time it's not kosher, he never gives it to me. So I came to you because you're a better rabbi. You give me sometimes that it's kosher. Rabotai, we see from this how important it is to have yourself a rabbi who is a real rabbi. And you can't make your own tests throwing it in front of a dog, not throwing it in front of a dog. Person has to go. The Pirkei Avot says, Aseh lecha rav, make for yourself a rabbi. And stay away from safek. Rabotai, a lot of times things happen. One time I wanted an order from a restaurant, and planned a big order. And when I came to the restaurant, their hashgacha certificate expired. And it was already 2 weeks expired. It wasn't like one day. One day everyone says, okay, 2 days, 1 week. It's 2 weeks expired already. And I had an order, and I had people coming. What are you going to do? Fine, take it this time, we'll find out later, right? They're usually kosher. No. I went and I asked somebody, can you please give me Rabbi Yigal Chaimov's number, because it was under his hashgacha at that time. So I called Rabbi Yigal Chaimov, and he answered. I didn't expect to get through the first time. I thought I was going to leave a message and he'll get back to me, but he answered. So he answered, and I said, Rabbi Yigal Chaimov, this is Moshe Shemarav. He said, yeah, I know you. I said, listen, you have a restaurant here. It's under your hashgacha. And the certificate's 2 weeks expired. I want to know if you still give certification here. Can I still eat from this place? Yigal Chaim says, I'm so sorry, this is right when it started with whole sickness. He said, I'm so sorry with my whole thing that's going on. I haven't been able to get it out, but we're going to get a new certificate of them soon. Yes, they're still under me, and you can eat from there. I said, thank you, Rabbi. And that was it. That was the phone call. But that's what a person has to do. You can't say, it looks kosher. It has a K. If you squint one eye, the package has a K on it, right? Or they have a trademark. It has to stand for Mashgiach Tamidi, right? Or other stuff. People put all sorts of ideas. It says, the person has to get a rabbi and follow the laws. Orthodox rabbi, right? Right, and if you have OC, right, the copyright, it's Orthodox committee, right? Yeah, everything is Orthodox. Everything comes kosher all of a sudden. The person has to take it and do a real research and go to a real rabbi and ask his questions. There's a lot of stuff in life, and sometimes you're embarrassed to ask. Nothing to be embarrassed to have. Rabbis are professionals. Just like you won't be embarrassed to show something to the doctor, don't be embarrassed to show something to the rabbi either. They're professionals. There's a whole system set up. Everything's done quietly, privately, secretly. There's ways things can get done correctly. If a person really wants to, he can. Okay. After that, let's look at Perek Chav Gimel Pasuk Zayin. We'll come to a very famous. Everybody knows this line. Midvar sheker tirhak. Right? It says midvar sheker. The literal translation is midvar sheker, from a word of false. Tirhak, keep distant. That's what it means. Tirhak, stay far away from a false word. What does it mean, and how do we teach our children how to speak the truth? You have to understand one of the things Gemara in Sukkah says to teach a child the truth is never promise your child something and not deliver. Meaning, if you be good, I'm going to give you the new, I don't want to say Lashon Hara, but I know one set of family that the kid was growing up, and for Purim he wanted to have a Batman costume. So he told his parents, I do this and this, they get me a Batman costume. So the parents said, of course, right? And then came time for Purim, he never got his Batman costume. Hey, wear the same costume you wore last year. That's what they told him. So the rest of his life, he was thinking about the Batman costume I never got. It happens. Kids are like that. But not only that, they learn how to lie from you. You told me you're going to give me a Batman costume. I never got it. So it means it's okay to lie. The person has to be truthful. You have to be true. You have to deliver. And you have to be careful of not putting a child in a position to make him lie. Child did something bad, and you know he did something bad. So you ask him, did you do it? And he knows if he answers yes, you're going to slap him. So what is natural instinct of a fight or flight? What do you do at that time? If someone tells you, you're going to lie. I don't want to get slapped. No, I didn't do it. So who caused who to lie? You caused them to lie by saying, did you do it? And you have your hand ready for him. The Shloah HaKadosh, when he was in Eretz Yisrael, he met a Sephardic Jew. And the Sephardic Jew was so careful and always saying the truth. So he told him, why do you always say the truth? He said to him, because my father, when I used to do trouble, my father used to always tell me, tell the truth and I'll give you candy. If you don't tell the truth, then I'm going to get you in trouble. So when he was Moda al Emet, when he was admitting to the truth, he got a reward for it. So for the rest of his life, he always felt that saying the truth was the good and proper thing to do. Now, I'm not telling you to give your kids candy or give you candy if you do something wrong, but maybe don't hit them. Maybe find something else that we can do for them.
Write down 300 times.
300 times writing something down. Another thing a person has to understand what emet means. Emet also means not to work on a fake image. It's okay. What's a fake image? A parent tells the child, you got a 98 on your test? A 98? What are you, a tippish? You not smart? I want to see 100. Again, I don't want to say but I know this guy. Every time he took his test to his father, no matter 98, and one time he got 100, he brought it to his dad. His dad said, "No, you didn't get extra credit." Right? They always asking for more. Right? It's parents, but that's what they did. So what does the child do? The child always feel that he has to look smart. He has to pretend to be smart. Sometimes we do the same thing. We're sitting at a lecture. We don't understand something. So instead of asking a question, what do? Because we don't want to show how foolish we look. Oh, I'm going to ask a question. We keep quiet. What's the whole reason you're keeping quiet? Not because you understand it, because it's sheker. You're lying to yourself. You're keeping your image to pretend that I'm smart, so I won't ask the question. The fact is, Elef Alpha have the law to make 1,000 separations. Confucius once said, or he's a philosopher, Chinese philosopher, he said, the man who asks a question is a fool for a moment. People laugh at him, okay? But the man who doesn't ask the question is a fool for life, because he'll never know the answer. So he remains foolish forever. Pirkei Avot says similar stuff, the same thing here. The person shouldn't feel that I can't ask because I'm going to look foolish. The fact is, if you have a question, probably half the people, if not more, have that same question, and everybody doesn't ask. You'll be the smart one and ask. Keeping this image also causes a lot of problems, this fake image. People like to make believe that their homes are always perfect. Right? I want to believe that their home is perfect, their home is spotless. Right? So what happens when a guest comes home? Everybody prepares their house before a guest comes. No one walks in and the house is clean. It doesn't happen. People live there, it's going to be a mess. It's the way it is. What happens? One time, the father brings someone home, and it's not clean, and he gets all upset, and he tells his wife, you don't keep a house clean, da 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 da. Why all this problem? Why all this fight? Because he wants to keep up this fake image that he has a perfect house. Nobody has a perfect house. Doesn't happen. Every house is a mess. Okay? And whenever you have guests, if you look under the blanket, there's a million stuff there. If you open the right closet, you'll find everything that's messed up. I do it personally myself, right? You put it here, you put it there. That's what you do. People do that. You want to give respect to your guests. At the same time, you don't have to keep up that fake appearance. Okay, didn't get completely clean. I'm sorry, like some stores do. Pardon our appearance. We're in the middle of renovation. Pardon our appearance. We didn't get through cleaning everything. Right? Under construction. Some stores are always under construction. All our houses are like that. The same thing is with a simcha. Someone makes a party, a wedding celebration. Instead of enjoying their celebration and feeling really good about it and having everything, they're so worried about their image, about this false image of being perfect, that their whole time they're worried that the smorgasbord wasn't hot enough. And that the chicken wasn't chicken, and they put the wrong food there, and the guy didn't play the music correctly. What are the people going to say? What are the people going to say? That's what they're worried about. Rabotai, the people are going to say nothing. They went to your wedding, they drank, they forgot, they came home, they don't care about your wedding. They gave you $150 for the seat, and that's it. No one's caring. The food wasn't, the food isn't. They don't know behind it. They talk about it for 3 Nobody really cares about the food.
People remember, like,
they eat the food.
Couple days they're gonna forget.
Everything forgets. You forget your own wedding. I don't even know what I had on my wedding. I don't even know where I sat. I don't even know what I ate. Nobody remembers. I didn't eat. It's my head. But I will die. That's the way the world is. People are so worried about that image. And so what if it's cold? You make an announcement next day. I'm so sorry, it was a little bit cold. And everyone will say, don't worry. People are so worried about their image. Therefore, all these fights and things happen. That's emet. Emet is, you have to go straight. You have to be straight and honest. Rabotai, I would like to say another few stories on emet. First of all, the word midvar sheker tirchak, right? We said stay away from a false word. Rabbi Zusha, he would say, how do you translate midvar sheker tirchak? He says midvar sheker, from a false word, tirchak, you become distant from God. I mean, every time you say a false word, as if you're separating yourself from God. There's a whole story where one time someone asked something from Hashem, and a paper came out from Shemaim, and it said emet on it.
That's the story with Avodah Zarah.
Where is it from? In Yuma, right? I remember reading it somewhere.
Right.
Right. And what did they say? What the emet was? The thing? It's the signature of God. God's signature is emet. So if you say sheker, or you say false, so you're distancing yourself from God. That's the way it works.
Can I say Zimun real quick?
Sure. Now, here are stories that can explain to you how much you have to try to be true. The Chazon Ish, one of the great rabbis in Israel in the previous generation, every day would have a minyan in his house at 12:30. 12:30, mincha, he would make in his house. And one day, they had trouble getting the 10th man. Until they got the 10th man, it was 12:45. They were about to start to say Ashrei, and his brother-in-law, Rav Shmuel, grind him and tell the Chazon Ish, listen, I have an appointment at 1 o'clock. What should I do? If I pray here, I'm not going to end up getting there on time. The Chazon Ish told him, a person needs to stay true. And you're a businessman, you're going to be someone for business. A businessman has to be emet, has to stay true. Therefore, you have to go to your appointment on time. We rather mivatel, get rid of this minyan for one day, than you end up lying. That's how far a person has to go. Go ahead. We have 10 or 3? I don't think we have 10. First bracha out loud. Amen. So we're gonna go. How much longer do we have? Another 10 minutes or so. Okay. Harav Mendel Meriminov, he said, in his days, a lot of people started going off the derech. A lot of young boys started going off the right path. So they were trying to find the source for this. So he said, you know why it is? Sometimes people are not careful with kosher. And when someone eats something that's not kosher, it's metam to metalev. It takes away the purity of the heart. It brings in impurities. And therefore the children don't want to learn Torah because they have impurities in their heart. So then someone asked the rabbi, what about nowadays? VHQ, everywhere, right? Everything's becoming VHQ. We have top-notch hashgacha. So why are there still people going off the right path? So Rav Yehuda Zev Segel, he answered, because sometimes the food may be kosher, but the money that bought the food was not. When someone does shady business, steals from one guy and does something like that, and then buys foods for his children, that food that he stole, that money that he stole, it turns the children, it turns them into bad spirits, and that causes problems. Then a person has to work very hard to get kosher money, to serve his children kosher food. It's not just kosher in status, but kosher in everything. Rasegel, he's the one who spoke and he's the one who acted. One time Rasegel went on a train in Europe, and he bought a ticket for second class. He went to second class train, the compartment. The people on it were like a fourth class. They were smoking, they were dancing, jumping up and down, and he didn't have any peace. So he decided he's going to walk into the first class compartment. He said, when the train conductor comes by, I'll tell him I went here. I'm going to pay the difference for the first class compartment. And the whole train ride went by, and the conductor never came. So when he got off the station, me and you guys would definitely go and do what he did. I would just walk out, free ride, Baruch Hashem. Hashem didn't send the conductor, right? What did this rabbi do? He went to the main place where they're selling tickets, and he says, here's my ticket, but I sat in first class. I want to pay the difference. So the attending guy says, listen, Rabbi, don't worry about it. It's on the house. No one said anything. Don't worry about it. He said, no, I'm not leaving here until you let me pay. He said, right, He would not budge until he ended up paying the full fare that should have been for the first class. This train conductor, the guy who was charging the ticket, said this guy is 1 in a million. This is emet. He wouldn't move away until he paid his fare. He wouldn't move away until he paid his taxes. He wouldn't move away until don't do shady stuff. Shady stuff is going to come back and bite you. That's what's going to happen. It's going to mess up everything in life. Hashem gives you enough money to pay for what you need. So don't think you need to take discounts. Some people in my family are upset at me with that, because I go with that philosophy when I buy stuff. I try not to bargain on discount. If they bargain and the owner says it's okay, then you could bargain. But I don't like doing that. I say, if Hashem gave me the money, I need this, I'll buy it, and don't worry about the money. The money will come. Further, it will happen. You don't need to always fight for every penny. And the more you're liberal with your money, Hashem is going to be very liberal with you when you get up there. You're going to have a lot more easier.
Hashem will not bargain with you.
Hashem won't have to, you'll have that extra money there for you. I will tell you the third story about how a person has to be true. It's important for people who work in businesses. Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, Rosh Yeshiva of Torah V'dat, once got a phone call from a former student. A student said, listen, I work at a business, and Purim is coming up. I want to know if the rabbi can tell me, is it okay if I call in sick on Purim? They want me to come in to work. Right? It makes sense. Call in sick. It's time to spend with the family. Hear the Megillah like a person. Eat the Su'udah on time. Right? So there's a lot of mitzvot instead of working. Yaakov Kamenetsky said, it's absolutely forbidden for you to call in sick on Purim, because for you that's going to be considered lying. So what does a person do when he really can't go to work because of circumstances, but he has sick days? So I once spoke to a rabbi, and he said, don't call in sick, meaning don't say, I'm sick, I can't come in. First of all, that's not good, because then you're going to end up getting sick, right? You open the mouth to the Satan, you end up getting sick afterwards. So what a person should do? Tell him, I can't come in today. That's what I did when I called up recently. I couldn't come in. I said, I can't come in. They said, what do you mean you can't come in? I said, I can't come in. What can I do about it? They say, you want to use a sick day? I said, that's what you want to give me. What did I do? I never told them I was sick. I just told them I can't come in. I said the honest truth.
They ask you why.
They have to now pay you for your time off because you have to work a certain amount of days a week. So they have to put that in, right? So they can put in a sick day for you, or they put in a vacation day or a holiday. They put something in, but you cannot call in and say I'm sick. That's lying. Person,
But could you say it was a holiday?
you can tell them how, but they may not give you off for that. They don't care about your pudding. As long as you can work, you can work. And sometimes it happens. You have to go in and work. It's better not to lie and go do your stuff honestly. So we see from here a lot of stories about how a person has to remain very true all the time. We'll end off with a Mishpatim is all about laws. So we're going to end up with a case that was once asked to a rabbi. The great Rabbi Yeshua of Kutna. One time, this interesting case came to him. In the shul, people bought their seats. Now, what's the most expensive seats in the shul? Where are the most expensive seats, right? The one next to the Aron, right? The eastern wall. This is the eastern wall, we consider it. The ones over here at the top. Now, this shul was having financial problems, so they wanted to know how they can make some more money. Fundraising. So they said, we can sell seats, we'll make money, but how can we sell new seats? If we're going to build the seats in the back, they go for cheap. So you know what let's do? Let's extend the show from the front. And we'll add new seats at the eastern wall, and we'll bid them off for high prices. And that's what they did. And now, Beddin, now a court case. The people who used to sit in the front are not anymore in the front. They got bumped. And now the new seats in the front, so they were complaining that they should really move to the front. And meanwhile, people who bought the front seats said, we bought them. So what should we do? So they came to the rabbi.
Everything came back.
And they came to the rabbi, and they asked him, what's the law? So the rabbi, with his infinite wisdom in the Torah, he answered as follows. He says, when Hashem changed the name of Avraham Avinu's wife, what was her name, original name? Sarai. He changed it to Sarah, right? Sarah. What letters did he change? He took away the Yud, and he put the He. We know, the Talmud Yerushalmi says what happened at that time. The Yud came to Hashem, and told Hashem, it's not fair. I used to be part of a righteous woman's name, and now I'm hanging I'm hanging. I'm in the air. I don't have anything to do. So Hashem said, we'll take care of you. And many years later, there was a man named Hosea, and the pasuk says, "Vayikar Moshe lo-Hosea ben-Nun Yehoshua." He went and took the Yud from Sarah's name, Sarai, took that Yud and put it by Yehoshua. It made his name from Hosea to Yehoshua. What the rabbi said, nowhere in any of our Gemara or Midrashim does it say that the Hey of Yehoshua complained. The Hey never said, hey, I was the first letter, and I became the second letter. The Hey never did that. So what do we see? The Hey is still there. Your seats are still there. The Yud just got placed in front of it. Some new seats were put in front of it. Your seats are still there. And so that's the way he posket. That these other people who were complaining that their seats used to be in the front and now it's not, you have no claim because your seats are in the same spot. So you see how much these rabbis are able to answer such cases and proof they would bring down. Rabotai, we went through a lot of stories this time. You should know that stories are not said for nothing. Last week's parasha, it says when Yitro came, Moshe, we talked about this. Moshe told him all the stories. Rashi says, why did he tell him these stories? And what do you mean why? It's happened. Why do you have to say, what's the reason he said the stories? Rashi said, what's the reason? To bring him closer to God. Stories are stories. Right? Stories are stories. Everybody likes a story. But the point of all the stories that we brought down, and all the explanations that we brought down, it's not just stories, it's not just nice things. They were meant to bring us closer to God. So, Bezrat Hashem, in the zechut of Uli Nishmat,
Geula bat Husni.
Geula bat Husni, Shehav Aliyah, V'gam Elisheva bat Adina. Anyone else for the zechut? The Uli Nishmat, Mishpatim. They should have a elevation of their soul.
Right.
And we appreciate everybody coming.
By German.
V'zat Hashem, next week, first of all, Shabbat, we have 3 o'clock. It's going to be our Talmud session and Masechet Sotah. Next week, we have a little issue. Thursday, I may not be available. I have stuck at work. So it may be done on Wednesday. We'll let you know on Shabbat. We'll talk to the people and get a feeling and see if it'll get done on Wednesday instead. Just for 1 week, okay? Thank you all for coming again. And Hazak Baruch, Erev Shabbat Shalom Lechulam.
Don't go, guys. We have to bench. I'm gonna bring my one.
We have 10 people? 10 adults? Mashiach et amecha, varach et nachatecha, urim ad olam. You said Kaddish?
8, you mean?
No, I want to say Kaddish. Yeah? Do you have anything? No, you're supposed to say Al Yisrael. No. You don't need to have anything. Just. רבי חנן בקשר אומר רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא זכו ישראל עתיקה חיבד יום תורה מצווה שנאמר אדוני חפץ למען צדו יגדיל תורה ויאדיר.
גדל והתקדש שמי רבה.
אמן. אמן. אמן.